And Nigel Farage, who was the leader of UKIP until he stood down on Friday, and I still can't get used to saying those words. Are you used to it yet?
I'm enjoying life far more than I was before, thank you.
Okay, all right. Mr Farage, you'd be happy with a referendum in 2016, wouldn't you?
Only the right referendum.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is, I was involved with the Irish referendum. I saw the Irish reject the Lisbon Treaty a few years ago and then be made to vote again. And in the second referendum, I saw a wall of money coming from the European Commission. So the yes side massively outspent the no side. The question was posed in a way that I think turned people towards voting yes. And the biggest question of all for this referendum is who can vote. Because, in a general election, it's British passport holders that vote. But in a European election and in local elections, people with EU passports can vote. There are 4 million EU citizens living in this country. Can they vote or not? And I hope that David manages to get that question answered at the 22 committee today, because that is crucial.
And do you want 16 and 17-year-olds to be able to vote?
Not particularly.
Why not?
I think we have a crisis with people up to the age of 30 not voting anyway. Just reducing the voting age makes almost no difference.
Okay, Ben.
I think the Conservative Party needs to address the image that it now has presented itself as to the public.
Okay.
I think this austerity debate, let's just remember that the last Conservative government in 5 years doubled the national debt. Yes. We still have a deficit running at £90 billion a year. And actually, I don't think the Conservatives won on the back of the economy. I think the Conservatives won because of the fear of the SNP in many parts of England being in coalition with Miliband. This government is going to face some very tough economic decisions.
I wanted to answer your question about what it is we wanted to see change in the next 5 years. What I want to see change in the next 5 years is something that I have to give Mr Farage a little bit of credit for, which is bringing some very difficult topics out into the open and for politicians across the board to be able to address them openly and honestly. And I think that's what...
You're talking about immigration?
I'm talking about the ability to say that we are going to spend £8 billion on the NHS and do that.
Okay, all right. You said earlier, Mr Farage, that now you are no longer leader of UKIP. You're feeling incredibly relaxed.
Yes. I can really speak my mind now.
Fair enough. Have you put much thought into whether you will throw your hat into the ring after the summer?
I haven't. What I'm thinking about is the referendum. Yes, Europe will dominate this Parliament. It started already. I gave a speech 3 weeks ago warning that a common EU asylum policy was being put into place. We hear overnight that the first demand on Cameron will be to take 30,000 people from North Africa. Yeah. Goodness knows what that number could be.
I don't know
over the course of the
is
next
that
5
the
years.
number? I thought it was just a fair quote across Europe. You've got 30,000. Where have you got that number from?
There is a summit. There is a summit to be held in June to discuss this issue, and Cameron's battles with Europe and his own party have barely begun. And what we could be watching is a rerun of the major government of '92.
Well, David Davis, do you think that's fair?
They had a small majority.
Okay. Mr Farage, Douglas Carswell, your one UKIP MP from those 3.8 million votes, was saying at the weekend, actually he thinks UKIP now, as it moves forward, should offer a more optimistic message. Do you agree?
Our manifesto was an optimistic manifesto. We didn't use any negative campaigning in this general election at all.
Why is he saying he wants it to be more optimistic?
Well, it would be very difficult.
What's he referring to?
It would be very difficult to be more optimistic than our manifesto was, and that's how UKIP's changed, and that's why we've reached into. That's why actually, despite everything. Despite the first past the post system, we've managed to get 4 million votes, and what's noticeable is the UKIP voters are getting younger. So actually, that optimistic message is there already.
Okay, well, optimistic in UKIP's manifesto that attracted you?
Well, to be honest, in their manifesto, it was so many things that attracted me. Taking back our fishing waters. It's just so many things. And there's so many things as well, like within the EU. That, like for instance, we pay £75 per head more than any other EU nation. There's so many nonsense policies that they've brought up that make no sense to the way we live. It makes sense for people to vote UKIP. I don't know why you wouldn't vote UKIP, because you can see the way England's going, and I think they are the answer. And if you don't see that, then
What is the way England's going?
What are the nonsense policies?
For me, I think that if we don't start controlling our borders sooner or later, I think that we're going to have a massive effect on society. We've felt that effect already. How
have I affected society? Because by controlling borders,
I'm not saying that you've affected society.
But you are saying I would affect society.
There's a housing crisis. There's a housing crisis at the moment. There's a housing crisis at the moment. Last year, NHS had I think it was 22.4 million patients in the accident emergency, right? That's a record number of patients. You telling me that English people all of a sudden decide to break their legs more? It's because we've got more immigration.
Yes, it is.
We can't control the amount of people coming here.
Come on. The British population has gone up by 10 million people since the early 1990s. We don't have the public services to cope. We ran net immigration post-war at 30,000 a year. It is now 300,000 a year, and next year it could be 500,000 or more. That's the point.
Public services could not cope without immigration. When was the last time you were in hospital? When was the last time you were in London Transport?
Why aren't we training more nurses?
I want to ask Reece.
Why aren't we training more doctors?
I want to ask Reece, who would you like to be the next leader of UKIP?
I actually signed a petition yesterday to keep Nigel as the leader. That's got like over 12,000.
I want to have a holiday before I think about it.
I would like him to stay the leader.
I want to ask